It's showtime.
In the world where critics roam, they take the movies to their throne. But we're here to break the mold. Media literate, behold. Every flick and every show, we dissect to let you know. Not with grace or high IQ, but with fun and laughter too. Media literate, we're the voice. No need for wisdom, just your choice. Popcorn in hand, take the ride. We'll guide you all through the tide.
Hello and welcome to another beautiful media illiterate review. It's been a while. This
it's
time
always a special time when we're sitting in the theater talking about these movies.
Oh yeah, and it has been a while. Sadly, there's not been a lot that could draw the money from my wallet.
Well, we thought about talking about Gladiator 2. It just wasn't. It wasn't good enough to get excited about, and it wasn't terrible enough to really get our cackles up. So it was hard to muster a lot of... Because conversations could be more interesting whether or not you really like it or even really hate it. It was just disappointingly mediocre.
Yeah, it was the most movie of all movies. It was a movie. And
that was a
by
film.
God, it movied. It was a film, and it just wasn't offensive enough, nor was it good enough to warrant a discussion. But yeah, this time I dragged Brett to the theatre for Sinners, Ryan Coogler's Sinners, starring Michael B. Jordan, as is his way of casting.
It's his actor of choice.
But it is his actor of choice. The I think we said earlier the Samuel Jackson to Quentin Tarantino. But
Brad Pitt,
so it's
man.
Oh yes. But yeah, this movie, it kind of we saw the ads for it, months and months ago, probably initially during one of the movies we saw last year, and it had some things that scratched some itches for us, being period piece, looked like a World War I veteran, because one of the images, which we can see in the background here, is Michael B. Jordan wearing dog tags.
I'm always down for a period piece. Flipping.
Oh yeah, we love a World War I veteran story.
So it's got the tangible South feel to it and everything.
Oh yeah, and so because of these things, I thought, why not? There were some movies or at least a movie that I was really kind of wanted to see at the beginning of this year that we ended up not, because it was so disappointing when we heard what it was actually like, and that was Mickey 17. So we missed our dark comedy sci-fi film, because it turns out it wasn't a dark comedy sci-fi film.
It was a little on the nose
piece of crap.
Satirical.
Oh, God.
It was a little too obvious Trump allegory.
Yeah, with an actor who just thinks he's so intelligent for doing it. Funnily enough, the one thing you always heard about that movie which was universal, which is Robert Pattinson's great.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm glad for him. I mean, which shouldn't be surprising at this point in his career, but
the man can act, even in Twilight.
Yeah, even in Twilight. But yeah, so this time we went in for our period piece, post World War I. What turns out to be a vampire film ?
Yeah,
but yeah.
I mean, it's not that we're alluding to the fact that it isn't a vampire film. It's just not about that.
Yeah, weirdly enough, because I mean, I don't know, where do we start with this? I mean, I guess because my initial expectations for this movie, because when I first saw the original advertisements, I thought it was much more, and I'm talking the very earliest ones. It was more because they had voiceover about evil in the world, which is actually in the film, a lot of it. And I thought it was much more, not literal, a little bit more about the evils of man, and because they show them opening the crate of guns and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, it's going to be like a gangster movie? Cool, a South gangster movie. I love that. And then once we find out later, oh, it is a vampire movie. Oh, cool, so it's going to be period piece, Southern 30 Days a Night. Love that.
Sure.
And it's not those. It's none of those. Well, it's
No.
both of those.
And
yet none of those.
Yeah.
Yes. So I dragged you to this, Rhett. Where do you want to start? Where should we start, I guess? I mean, what was your feeling on it initially going in?
Oh, boy. I mean, I'd seen a trailer or two just because their advertising budget seemed to be pretty aggressive. Like, they wanted to show this movie out. So I was very much aware of it. Because there are some movies that come out where it's like, it comes out and then it leaves theaters and I wasn't even aware of it. Like, I was aware. They seem to intently want to make sure the word gets out and spend money to get everybody aware of this thing. And this also seems to be kind of a Ryan Coogler, let's throw money at him so that he can freely do what he wants to with it. As
it has that vibe.
Because he's been fairly successful with his last few movies, that it's like, well, I have this passion project, you see. What was my expectation? I was honestly expecting kind of a campy vampire, people speaking in southern accents and shooting guns. Like, not aggressively more than that. I was very aware before this that this movie is partially the reason why Blade kind of got put on the back burner or even canceled. Because Blade was too similar to this movie. It was going to be a period piece set back in the day, fighting vampires. And it's like, oh no, we're going to have to do something different. So yeah, I mean, I didn't have a huge amount of expectations as to what to expect with this film. I was just expecting a fun Michael B. Jordan shooting vampire shows. Like, I've actually seen Michael B. Jordan in a few movies. He was in a Fahrenheit 451 sort of like redo-ish where he was the main character and it sucked.
Oh. Bum, 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 bum.
Well, when you're watching the movie and they're talking about the books that we need to preserve, and it's like, oh, we need to make sure that, you know, we need to preserve the Bible and Das Kapital, and I was like, oh. It's like, do we?
The exact two that Rhett would think of, certainly.
And he was really good in Creed. I really liked Creed.
Yeah.
But he was that swagger black guy. I have something to prove sort of thing. So not to say that he didn't do a good job, but that was a type of role that you could almost get any other guy to do.
Yeah.
Because it's just have swagger and an attitude and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I will say Michael B. Jordan in sort of the Parent Trap situation here, where he's playing twins as himself.
Yeah,
he did a good job having them be distinct from each other.
Well, I was surprised about how good a job he did. He's very good in this movie.
He carries the crap out of this movie. Although I think, is there anyone that was bad in this? I didn't think there was anyone that I was like, ugh. As far as acting goes.
Well, they seem to do a really good job casting people. It's funny when people cast, like, I know, and I'm an insider, but when people cast for films, they either get somebody who they cast who's going to be a good job to fill the role, or they cast somebody and then the role sort of adapts to that person's personality. Because there are definitely actors in this. Like, there's a classic black actor comedian in it who plays a blues player. And it's almost like his role is partially who he is naturally. So the role feels more natural as opposed to he's just killing it and he's pulling off Shakespeare or whatever. And you don't have to create these ridiculous roles and then demand sort of a chameleon actor to come in and then fall. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is write a role and then adapt the role to fill in the type of personality the actor is, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and oftentimes it's much smarter to do that. And I think for me, I his character was both really good, and there was parts where he was the worst part of the movie. For me, as far as the characters, if that makes sense, because like that I don't know. I don't want to get too far into it, but there's a moment where like he's used for comedy in a way that it's like, oh, then I shut up. I hate this. This isn't that kind of movie.
Yeah, we definitely can get into that.
Yeah, its tone is a problem with this film, is all I'll say for now.
And we're going to end up... I suppose that's, in a meta sense, when you discuss a film, it's not that we're purposeful, but you tend to find problems because you're discussing a film overall. So it's going to sound like we're poo-pooing what is mostly a really good movie. That has some serious flaws, and it's writing flaws. It's not acting. It's not cinematography. All of that comes together. It's just, it's like the critic's dilemma. The very fact of criticizing something makes it out to be that the movie might be worse than what we're making it out to be. I actually quite liked the movie up to a point, and then it falls apart.
Yeah.
It falls apart for me.
Yeah, the movie is. I will say this, as far as the craft, and whether you're talking acting or the filmmaking itself, whether it's sets, costumes, the cinematography, all of that is really good in this movie.
It's really
at least yes, it's a beautiful movie. It looks great. Everyone looks good in it. They all have like all the costuming is really distinct for the characters and makes sense for who they are, what they do, so on and so forth. But there's some things with the decision making in the writing and God, the pacing especially, that is hard to understand.
And tone.
That hurts the tone of the film. Yeah. But
absolutely.
So I guess, should we get into a bit of a brief synopsis? Kind of go into the events of the film a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got the steering wheel here, champ.
All right, slugger. So the movie opens up with our who turns out to be one of the main characters, driving a car and then walking into a church out in the middle of a field.
I want to say that was... This is the end of the movie, and then we see everything that led up to that moment.
Yep, it's one day earlier. Well, I think that's Miles Caton who plays...
Okay. Which isn't a new way to... Oh, by the way, like with any media literate, this is a post-synopsis, and this should go without saying, but we spoil the crap out of things that we talk about.
Oh, God,
because I don't want to hamstring any discussion we have by not discussing the plot in detail, the characters, the events that happen. So you could take the first part and be like, oh, this is an interesting general discussion, but we always are going to spoil these films.
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to go into a little bit more depth. Not like super deep dive, but like we're gonna spoil things most certainly, but to me that's the fun is uncovering things and discussing them. So,
sure.
But yeah, so our main character Sammy shows up at the church and clearly battered, beaten, and then he rewinds back to the previous day, and we see Michael B. Jordan as Smoke and Stack. Twin brothers waiting for somebody to show up.
I like those names, by the way.
I do too. I think they're really good nicknames for each other, and like the fact that they go together but they work separately. I love it. I think that's really fun. But yeah, so we see them buying an old sawmill from a white gentleman. It's tense. And there's a tense moment where they feel like maybe he's saying something a little racist. He calls them boys. And he like, hey, I didn't mean anything by it. I just something I say. Doesn't matter who I say it to. But clearly he's a little bit unsure of them too until he sees their money. They hand him a bag of money. And they buy property and they say they're going to open up a juke.
Would it be lame if I retread something I said on the podcast proper when discussing this?
No, I don't think so. I think it would go nicely here. I think I know what you're going to mention. But yes, I'd go for it.
Well, and one thing, and this is going to sound lame, because it's like every time you have something, especially in this sort of setting, the expectation is you're going to have to talk about like the racism, the bigotry,
yes,
and this is Jim Crow South and yada. And then when you do that, it stops becoming about sort of the character's journey, and it just becomes about that. It becomes about the racism. And anytime you have a movie set in this period of time, it's just about the racism.
Yeah.
And so you don't really get stories about people living their lives, or stories about, human stories about people living through these time periods. You just get period pieces about the racism. And
it's all
I'm
about
not saying
these
those
specific events.
Well, right. And I'm not saying those are bad, but it's like those tend to overshadow everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a movie set in a time period where there's a black and a white person without being like, yep, racism was bad. Look at how bad it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. We all understand that. But I think what that hamstrings is the ability to tell a story without that having the sort of ugly overshadowing everything. And what I really like about this movie, except for a moment in the end, is that this movie, instead of taking the entire audience and forcing them to stare at the racism in a really awkward, like almost grabbing your face and pointing it at and see, like, look, see, bad. They stitch it into it as if this is the natural sort of how people are living their lives in this setting. So instead of constantly referencing it, it's like they talk about Jim Crow like this is stuff that they're living with, not like, oh, Jim Crow's terrible, we really need to change this, wink at the camera, as opposed to this is a thing that is just part of our lives. Like every character doesn't have to be like a freedom fighter or fighting injustice. Everybody's
the activism of this film is not overt. It is these are just people living their lives and dealing with the reality that is there. Whether it's like talking like the Jim Crow South, which is where this takes place, 1932 Mississippi Delta, or even Smoke and Stack talking about what Chicago's like a little bit in the 30s. Like there's just certain realities that and it's not nobody standing up and going like, no, damn it, not today. Like that doesn't happen. I guess maybe at the end, one of the endings that we'll talk about.
Well, an indulgent like rubbing your nipples moment at the end of it for the director.
Yeah, which weirdly enough would have been fine had it not. Anyway, we'll get to that.
That's what the movie was about. Yeah.
Yeah, and but yeah, I agree with you entirely. This movie's very well done in that it certainly doesn't shy away from it, and people talk about it in a very natural way.
Yes,
where it's like
natural.
Sort of matter of fact. Yeah, matter of fact. This is just how it is. The sun rises and sets, and this is what happens. But they don't. It's certainly not shied away from or hidden. It's just around-ish. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that's what I like about that scene so much, is they're sitting there having a conversation with this guy who's clearly a racist white guy selling them this property. And in a movie other than this, somebody might have held a gun to his neck and been like, here's your money, get out of here. One of these days, you guys won't be tolerated anymore and we'll be treated equally. And it's just be something really absurd as opposed to what would naturally be a relationship between these two types of people at the time period. is less of that and more of a we don't trust each other, and they're just kind of almost like two rival gangs meeting and trying to have a deal. It's like there's parity, but we both expect the other one to betray each other given the opportunity. So there's this distance and passiveness between the two sides.
Yeah, and at the end of this transaction, they go like, "Hey, if any of these clansmen like show up and want to step foot on our property, we'll kill them where they stand." He's like, "Oh, well, there's no clan anymore. They're all gone. Didn't you hear?"
Yeah,
and like in a way where he's like, he's saying like, "No, that doesn't happen anymore," but like it's kind of sly, like, "Oh, come on." But it's all again, you're right, like it feels much more natural where they're just like saying like, "Yeah, well, this is our property now, so like none of that's not going to be tolerated." And not a grand gesture of moral superiority, just a matter of fact, like, "Yeah, we'll shoot them. We don't care."
Yeah. In any other movie, they would have taken this moment and just really overdone it. It's like, "You racist white man, this is my property now," and it's like, okay, all right.
Like, oh, thank God.
Calm down there, champ.
But yeah, it's well done in that way, and so our characters, Smoke and Stack, have bought this property, and they mentioned they're going to open up a juke, a club, if you will, and they go. They have a truck full of stuff, and they're going to go get everything ready. And one of the things they're getting is their younger cousin, who's a hell of a blues guitar player.
Whose father is the main character.
Yeah, that's... I wasn't quite expecting that. But he is. He's kind of the sub-main character. It's interesting. His father's the local preacher, and he doesn't want him indulging in this sort of stuff, but that's another thing that I thought was really well done, where like his father clearly has a set of moral guidelines that he wants his son to follow, and that his son is a dutiful son. Like he is up earlier before everyone else, because a lot of these people are sharecroppers, obviously. Getting his weight of the cotton done early before everyone else wakes up, and he's shown that he has memorized the verses that he needs to and all this stuff to his father. But you know what? He wants to strike out and kind of do his own thing a little bit. He wants to experience the world, and his father lets him. Like he doesn't go like, "No, God damn it, you come back here." There's none of that even. Like it's much more understated,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like these are your expectations, but something's drawing him away. But they don't make it so much. It's like, "You better stay, son," or they don't set up these sort of lines and then breaking lines dramatically in like a 2-minute scene.
No, like he warns him, like about those sorts of situations and these people giving into their baser instincts at these places, but he doesn't, like chew him out or punish him. It's all very, very classy. I don't know. Like I was impressed. The more I thought about that, I liked that. But
not to draw too general a point on this first part, because we haven't really finished this first section discussion. But I could spend a lot more time in a movie set sort of talking about the lives of people in this time.
Yeah.
I could spend a lot more time in that first half-ish or more, however long it is, of people just going through their lives and Jim Crow South and sort of daily struggles and having conversations. It's like a movie I didn't know I needed, but the movie's giving me, and just unfulfilled giving me. It's like I need that little section there. Give me a human drama set in this first part, because it's so visibly done well, and the characters are so fleshed out. It's like they spent time giving these characters depth to a degree, even though some characters you don't spend a lot of time with. And I kept having this feeling, it's like that, man, Hollywood does not want to give me this movie.
No, they do not. And that's that is one thing about this movie where, I mean, we won't rush by, but like the first half of this movie is literally them setting up the juke, getting everyone gathered, whether it's getting the sign and the menu painted, getting all the food. They already have the drink. They brought that from Chicago, as it turns out.
Right.
And getting their bouncer and their their musicians and all that stuff ready. And it's all really good. I mean, the time passed by quick on that part of the movie. It didn't feel like it dragged. People, they were setting up the kind of character differences between Smoke and Stack.
It didn't feel like a drag, good. But oddly, it felt longer than I thought it was.
And it may have been longer. That's the problem because I didn't really look at my watch to at this point in the movie. I didn't even ever glance at my watch that I remember.
Because the last part goes by so quickly. So the first part could either be half or 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah, like my brain says it. Oh well, surely that's only the first third of the movie, but I think it's closer to the half. In reality, it probably should have only been the first third, but at the same time, it's a really good part of the movie.
Which, despite the fact it's the best part of the movie, it's also very flawed when it comes to the rest of the film.
Yes. I don't know. Do you want to go into much more detail on the beginning of this film? I mean, because we can talk about some small things like the little Asian couple with their very smart daughter who is wise onto Smoke and Stack, and how they run the general stores on the black side of the street and the white side of the street to double their money.
Well, one thing I really appreciate is there's a lot of effort to show you how the world works down here. That it's who you know. And how you expect things like they spend more time than you would expect of him finding somebody to watch his truck, because if it sits there for more than 5 minutes, somebody's going to look through the back and steal things.
Yeah,
and then he comes out and shoots the guy in the ass. Immediately, when somebody goes out and is shuffling through the back of his truck, and it's just other guys from his community. So the expectation, he's like, I can't trust them because they're gonna. So now you've established that they're very familiar with this neighborhood and the type of people that'll be around, and they know people, so that they have to work through stuff, because a lot of it is. That's what's so good about this first part is it's working with. How do I phrase this? It's the familiarity between them and everything else, and how those relationships help them go about setting up this juke that they're trying to, juke being sort of a music dance hall sort of thing. This juke that they're trying to set up, and a lot of that has to do with the relationships they have around them, which serves really well with the later part of the movie, because you get the relationships between these people, and so you care. They don't waste time having you get to know people that don't show up in the final part of the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone
off.
That they collect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone they collect is other. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone they talk to or make a deal with shows up in the final half of the film, third, whatever it is.
Well, except for the two guys he shoots, but yeah.
Well, yeah. But they're just there to show that Smoke means business, and he's not afraid to crack off around and draw attention to himself in that way.
I have a reputation. Don't you screw with me. He literally
Yeah,
shoots the other guy to be like, you're going to tell people you got away from smoke, so I got to shoot you.
Yeah, because he shot the first guy, and the other guy was running away further, like he was further away and already booking it. But they stopped after the one guy got shot in the ass, and he's like, just like goes, and just shoots him in the knee, like in the leg. He's like, well, I can't let you say that you got away without nothing, without no repercussions.
Damages my reputation.
Yeah, and that's one thing that first part does set up, is that these Smoke and Stack have a history here that's not all good, but it's certainly not all bad either. Like, they're very flawed men who've done some really bad things, but that people do like them.
Well, there's a
despite
weight to their history too. It's like
Yes.
they left a lot of family and things unsaid and relationships hurt or
Yeah.
open wounds. It's like dealing with the I can't remember which one it was, Smoke or Stack, that has the wife that he left because they had lost a child, and
Oh, that was Smoke. Mhm.
yeah, and then they had taken off, or he had taken off, and now that he's back, and it's like there's a lot of it's an interesting part of the human experience where just locations and people that are left behind showing back up. It's like there's a lot of emotion and feeling still attached to these places that you can run from, but they're always still going to kind of be there.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like it's almost like staring the hurt in the face again. It's like talking about their father and how they used to beat him,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how these things, even when you're a tough guy, these things don't go away. And it gives so much weight to the first part. It's like, this is what I want. I want this character story about these guys who left, got money, made a name for himself, and then come back in, and it's like, oh, we left this community where we're definitely weighted in here emotionally to this neighborhood, to the people around, and the people that we left behind. It's so rich, this part of the storytelling, which is what I love so much about it.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. I was thinking about this after we watched it, like this weekend. I was thinking, like, man, that first half of that movie was so good.
It's almost a masterpiece.
Yeah, and like if they could keep their writing going that strong, I would almost want it to be a TV show, even if it's just one season, of 10 episodes, a nice rounded out like single story. Because I think it would work really well.
Because I have that feeling that I want to spend more time in it. But the problem is, I think that not that it's too related, but it has if we're talking about the first part of this movie, it has almost like it could have had so much weight and I guess importance and drama and stuff is like a Mystic River.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like it could be this like big epic drama film that gets an Oscar out of it and stuff. And I know we're overpraising it because the problem with this movie is you get to the latter half and it's like, oh yeah, never mind.
And that's what's so funny is that first part is so well done. Like the human element of it is so well done, and the bringing you into that time period and that place.
Oh yeah,
that you forget that this is going to be a vampire movie.
Yep.
And you know what? Like it. Well, I don't know if I want to get too far ahead, but we can probably. I'll return to that thought, but yeah, it makes it hard because as I've said before, the tone of this film has a hard time picking what it wants to say and what it wants to feel like. And the first part of it feels like like you said, like a prestige, either like epic film or like, modern kind of epic or like a prestige TV show,
Yeah, it could almost be like a There Will Be Blood sort of prestige to the first part of the movie.
Yeah. And it really could have been.
Bigger drama. Yeah.
Yeah, very human. And I guess this is, so that's when the vampire part shows up, it's very jarring.
Yeah.
Because this whole time we're just focused on the human element of it, whether it's Smoke and Stack, whether it's Sammy or whoever, they're talking about their reality. They end up picking up, one of the musicians they pick up is a gentleman who plays piano, I think Delta Slim.
Okay.
And, he talks about how he came into a lot of money one time playing, for this white party, this party for all these rich white people. And he kind of hid his money and then just drank it away, like on the sly. And the buddy that he played with got really brash with his money and ended up getting, lynched and drew too much attention to himself. And it's like this really somber, like serious moment. And like, again, very naturally played. Like they just start talking about it. Like it starts with a conversation about just playing music, which would make sense, and
this movie is so steeped in blues culture.
Oh yeah.
Because the blues came from, it's almost singing out your sadness with the lives that you're living. But he almost has this sort of like smile of like, oh, well, that's life. And then I'm going to sing my despair, but then grin afterwards. It's like, well, what can you do about it? This is the sort of things we have to live with. And you're like, man, the lives they have to live with, the lives that they go through. I mean, it feels very steeped in sort of a southern. There's blues all throughout it. It has that feeling of this is why the music is the way that it is, because of the experiences a lot of these people have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He's a great character. I really enjoyed his character. He's another one of those, like the role almost was shaped around the personality of the actor.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did a really good job. There was only one moment where I was like, ugh, and that wasn't him, that was the writing.
There are problems with the writing.
Yeah, and it's so to continue on, because there's the changeover point is really important, and I think there's a lot to talk about. But they gather everybody, they get everything set up for this juke joint. They have the Smoke's wife that he had left behind. She's cooking, the catfish for everybody.
By the way, she has voodoo magic, which does apply in a way.
Yeah, that's right.
I wish
forgot
that
about
sort of thing is left out of this film, and it's not just because of mysticism I care about, but that it's actually real in the context of this film. Yeah,
that's an aspect of this movie that I think in a TV show would have been better and played a little bit more grounded. But in the context of this movie and how much time they have, it makes it a bit of a mess. But
yeah, she is actually a witch in some respect.
Yeah, like
Well, which is partially not to derail sort of where you're trying to go. I apologize.
No.
That's sort of the big problem is the first part is so grounded.
Yeah,
and despite the fact that they have this good foreshadowing. I don't want to call it foreshadowing. They give emotional stakes to the characters you see beforehand.
Yes.
And then they bring them in to the second half of the film. Mm-hmm. My biggest problem with this movie is that transition.
Yeah.
Because there's no foreshadowing. They don't even allude to any vampire-related things. It's just suddenly like, we're going to get this juke together. Now we're doing the juke vampires. And it's like, are these two different movies? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the only supernatural element that you ever get is literally when Smoke is talking to his wife. And I should be polite and come up with the character's name. Let me look real quick. Ruthie. Right. And they're talking about their tragically dead infant son. Because she asks if he still keeps this, I forget what she called it now, but like a little keepsake bag with
medallion
like, or like little like items in it that's like magical, right? Like
talisman, maybe.
Like it's she asked if he still had it, and he did, and he's like, yeah, it's kept me safe through the war, like and up in Chicago, like all these wars and violence that I've seen, but it couldn't keep our son safe. And he asked like, why couldn't it? Like what? And she's like, I don't know. Like, that's what I mean. Like that part of like, that's the only even hinted at supernatural bit, but it's so grounded and so natural. Like that's the kind of thing people would talk about.
Yeah. Well, almost like, do you have your cross or whatever? It feels like these are sort of religious or superstition practices that they would have and that they would believe in their own way, but you don't have to go like, make a definitive statement as to whether or not it's real. It's more important as to whether or not the characters believe in it. And he has to sort of half believe. He's sort of like, because I care about you, I can't carry it with me, but it's nonsense because it couldn't save my son.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the only hinted at.
It's super real.
God, yeah.
Which takes it away from grounded and makes it like this weird, like mysticism, like silliness to it, and it's like, oh no.
And because there's two. The music is very important in this movie, and as it turns out, the supernatural stuff is very important. But the problem is that the supernatural isn't really set up very well at all, but the music is, and it turns out the music is supernatural as well. And because that's the only hint of supernatural we get. So literally, they're setting up and begin playing. It might be just as they're finishing setting up in the juke, and it cuts to a man running across an empty field, and it looks like he's burnt. Like he's a little bit sunburnt or blistered, and sounds desperate. And he ends up at this little shack of a house out in the middle of these fields, and is asking for help from some very suspicious people. They happen to be white. Not that it really matters, but just so you know.
I very much expected the white aspect to be like, the vampires are these white people attacking the black people of the juke, and it wasn't really.
No, it was literally the happenstance of.
They didn't make it this white versus black thing, which I was like, they could have, and then the movie would have been about this weird racism, but they didn't.
Yeah, that's what I was really worried about with the final trailer I'd seen of this film was like, oh no, please God, don't do that. Like, don't be so on the nose about it. And they weren't. It's just literally happenstance of who he happened to find first. But he's being pursued and he's asking for help. And so they bring him in, and who comes to look for him but some Native American gentlemen. And they ask if
does say that there are these monsters called different names from different cultures.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And so you do allude to the fact it's like, well, the Native Americans know about these sorts of monsters, and so in your mind you might go, oh, well, this is what they're hunting a thing.
Mm-hmm. And the prologue does mention the powerful music, powerful musicians and cultures. As well,
which is
Irish,
very silly,
Native,
but
black.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get there. But they ask if anyone's come into their home, and she waves them off and tells them to go away. They wish her a good night and go. Another aspect that if this had been a TV show, I would have wanted to see more of, if I'm honest.
Oh, sure, the native hunters or whatever. He does offer them gold to hide them.
Oh yes, that's right. Like what look like doubloons.
Something real
old and big ass gold. And so they let him in, and she goes to check on her hubby, and oh no, he's been bitten in the neck, and the visitor is all covered in blood and now has big, gross, long fingernails. I believe his name's Remick, if I'm remembering right.
Sure,
played by Jacko.
He's an Irish vampire.
Yeah, as it turns out, and at this point he only has a southern accent, but as we find out later, he is shockingly Fenian. And
I thought it was interesting. You could have got a cliche give him a very highbrow accent to sort of have this it's like, oh, the highbrow guy versus these poor black people. You could have a British accent or like a very snooty Southern, but it's like, no, they gave him an Irish accent, which I was like, this is interesting. It's not frequently, not that Irish are lowbrow, but they've always been sort of the lower caste spectrum, especially during this time. Because Irish were never super wealthy, and those who were wealthy stayed in Ireland. So if you made it to the New World, you tended to not have a lot of money. So it was interesting to get this this thick, feedy guy accent, just be like, "Oh, I'm a vampire." I'm all in on that.
Yeah, and the music comes back with him too, and which we'll get to shortly. But yeah, and it was interesting. But so now he has his first two thralls, and but we cut back to the juke, and our young Sammy starts playing, and Rhett, how would you describe this scene that as he begins his beautiful blues guitar music? Your favorite scene of the film, I dare say, Rhett.
Well, so that's the problem between the first, and maybe this was intentional, where it's like these things that hold weight, because there's a heavy emphasis on the fact that this cousin character is really good at playing the guitar and playing the blues. And it's like, look how great he is, yada yada yada. So they finally bring him in to play for their juke, and he plays. And what we saw in the beginning, as sort of like it's like, oh, this guy's really good at this thing. Everything almost takes this like exaggerated mystical feel. It's not as if it's not enough that we have vampires. And I don't know how to describe this part. So here, let me backtrack a little bit. He apparently, being good at the blues, has a magical music power. I don't know how to explain it other than that. He plays music and it's magic. He has a magical musical power. Now,
and what does that musical magic power do, Rhett?
It allows you to connect to the future and the past of yourself and the people around you. I don't... Something like that. And before we describe exactly what it does, I don't know. There has to be a term for this. It's not MacGuffin. It's got to be something where it's like there's a convoluted, arbitrary story hook that we wrote that has no relation. Like it's not foreshadowed. There's no building up to it. It's just like, it's almost like writing a superhero movie where it's like, I'm going to flood the earth, and the guy's like, I have water powers that I'm now telling you about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he can play the blues really well. Oh, okay. Oh, it turns out it's magical and it's really important to this vampire. Oh, all right. And I don't know. There's got to be this being media literate. We are not as in depth of these things, but there's got to be a term for this. It's not MacGuffin, but there's something where it's like some weird arbitrary like story hook that you write in just to out of nowhere justify other things, because it is the dumbest bullshit to ever insert into a film that we have heaped nothing but praise on into the beginning of this movie. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we learn that not only is he really good at playing the blues, but he's so good, it is a literal magical power that connects him to the future and the past of other people who play music, I guess, that he's related to or something. So as he's playing, and this is where it gets really dumb, a very steeped period piece, people speaking in the correct accents, people heaped in the culture, using the correct language, beautiful. And he's playing his music, and a guy dressed up in 80s space gear playing electric guitar.
What I would describe as Black Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah, suddenly shows up out of nowhere. And we're supposed to be blown away as his music connects him through the generations of other people. And suddenly it's like people from the past, where it's like people from Africa dancing or playing music from like way back in West Africa. Or someone with like a turntable behind him on the stage, like playing the turntable. Like somehow this music is equal in measure. And I think this was my biggest gripe, where you're going, and this is going to make me out to be a music snob. The blues is beautiful. I'm not obsessed with the blues or whatever, but when I've heard it, I appreciate it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think I like the blues more for the sort of old timey cultural feel to it, as opposed to I'm not as big into jazz or anything.
Yeah,
and they're implying that this magical power to play amazing music transcends to the other generations, and that this guy on the turntable is an equal to him playing the blues with these complex tunes farther, I guess, in his time period. And then it's like, also of cultural equality and importance to me and my ancestors and my future, progeny. Here's somebody twerking in the corner. as if that it implies that the twerking is an important cultural aspect of future generations in equal measure to the soulful blues of people living through hard times. That somehow that has as much meaning. It's almost like sometime down the road, a progeny of his will twerk and connect with past lives with her magic twerking.
Yeah, and
I'm like, excuse me? Wait
and that's it, it's so jarring too, because like you see the people from the past first, like you just see like these like ethereal figures of like, people like from West Africa or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay. I mean, this is kind of odd, but whatever.
Connecting
like,
to my ancestors. I mean, it's odd.
Like,
I think it's silly, but whatever.
Yeah, like it would still be weird, but it's like you think, oh, this is just going to be like this brief thing, and then it goes like, and to the future, and you see the Black Macho Man Randy Savage guitar playing '80s man, and you're like,
doesn't fit at all.
Like,
completely damages the ambiance and the tone and the everything.
Yeah, and like that's because then you start seeing like the Asian couple there, like their ancestors, like in their traditional garb, are like hanging around, as well as Haley Steinfeld's character, who I think she's part native. She passes or whatever, but like you see them doing like I think he's Crow, or I don't know, like some Cree, a Native American gentleman doing like their traditional dance, and you're like, oh, well, what the hell is going on? Like,
well, and the funny part about the Chinese thing, it comes across slightly racist, because in order to point at sort of their ancestors and the sort of music cultural connection that they have, he's not actually dancing, he's doing kung fu.
Yeah.
He's doing some sort of formed kata, and he's doing kung fu, and I was like, all right, because there are some of them that seem to be dancing some sort of like traditional Chinese dance, and then there's just a guy doing kung fu, and I was like, that's almost racist, because the implication is like, well, they're Chinese, of course they did kung fu.
Naturally, that is their dance, is it not?
They had ancestors,
sweet Tai Chi in the park,
who did kung fu, and there he is doing kung fu. That's like, all right,
God.
Okay,
and
it'd be one thing to do the rain dance, but then it's another where it's like, oh, kung fu though.
Well, but Asian man does kung fu, obviously. Hello. It's just very odd, and
it's more than odd. It is jarring and confusing, and the song is all over the place. They make it out to be this big transcendent musical moment, and it's mixing a lot of styles, and I don't think it works.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
No.
And it's funny because they have this like African individual in the middle with this mask and stuff. I was like, what would work better is as they're doing this juke, they bring out some of their old cultural traditions, and some of them dress in like a West African thing, and they're dancing, and it's like, that would be interesting. But instead, it's this weird magic where he's connecting the future and the past. And it's like, okay, I guess.
it completely yeah, like you said, like the tone gets really like, oh, okay, so not only is there vampires, but there's music magic.
Yeah.
And
the movie completely stops, and suddenly it's like, what's going on?
Because then suddenly there's a lot more electric guitar in the soundtrack,
and it doesn't fit.
Not very well, and at all. And what does this music magic do, Rhett? But it draws the attention of Mr. Remick.
Yes,
and he wants him a piece of that sweet
Irish
music
vampire.
Magic. Yeah,
because he's been looking for somebody with magic music.
so he can see, as we find out, so he can see his ancestors. He can see his people again.
Well, and that's what's so stupid about this. It's like, hey, everybody, we're going to create out of nowhere, halfway through this movie, a weird arbitrary magic. And then the vampires are going to be like, I want this weird arbitrary magic. And it's, you would have served the story better if you would have built this to some degree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be like they praise. It's like, oh, he's really good at the blues. It's like they needed to have him. They needed to start this movie him playing.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of people gathered around him being like, you know, you're not just good. There's something to what you can do. And then later he plays again. And then people are drawn to him. It's like there's something to his music. And then you have the voodoo lady suggest it's like, you know, there's more to their music than meets the eye. Not to use a Transformers reference. And then that way, when we get to the later part, then it's like when he plays, it's like, oh, there is something there, and it's drawing the vampires. As opposed to just out of nowhere, it's like he has magic music powers. Because you could have easily, and it wouldn't have taken that much time or been that difficult, add a little bit to be like, there's more to this guy. There's more to his music than simply being good at music.
Yes.
It connects to people on a different level.
Yeah, and they don't set that up at all.
Confusingly separate, the first and the second half, as if they're completely in different movies.
And you know, the movie that comes to mind with this film is of Night, right? Because it starts out as like 30 Days a Night, where like they live up in Alaska and people are getting ready to leave because the winter's coming and blah blah blah. And then suddenly strangers come to town. Oh no, vampires, and we must survive. And it's horrible and gruesome and so on.
Sure.
But the transition is really, as I remember, and it's been a long time. Like, because it starts out with Ben Foster's character like kind of being the recon element because he's a human for the vampires. Like, it eases you in even a little bit better. Like, even though it is very sudden and on purpose. This, I mean, literally the first mention or thought of a vampire, like it's when he rolls up into that couple's house. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's not much longer before he's at the juke wanting to get in because of the magic music. And it's just like, what? Like, it's so jarring. Like, the combination of the quick shifts and the tonal bizarreness of the magic music is so odd.
They don't even feel like the same movie.
No, at all. And I mean, we can talk about, I think, afterwards, after we finish up our synopsis here, but like, anyway, I wonder if some changes, because I'm fine with a nice jarring, I mean, you know, because the other movie you think of with like a big tonal is Predator. It starts out as sweaty, manly pecs action film at the beginning, and then it turns into a we're being hunted sci-fi horror film.
Yeah, but I would say at least in that movie there is this through line of tension in the movie of we're on pins and needles because we're on this serious mission. And then something out there is more dangerous than us. But there's a through line through the film. It's like this film, there's no through line.
No, because at least in Predator, they find those like skinned corpses from the first helicopter, and they go, "What the hell is this about?" Like, and there's already the tension with Carl Weathers' character, who's a CIA guy, and they don't really trust him. Like, there's at least something there. Whereas, like, it goes from, like grounded, like period crime drama to magic music vampires, or vampires, magic music vampires, and it's just like, what?
Well, the music isn't really a through line because they don't tell us that there's something special to the music. We just know he's good at the blues.
Exactly.
And the vampires aren't really a through line that carries us through the beginning to the latter half of the movie. The vampires don't even exist, really, except for that little prologue. Nothing.
Yeah.
There's no vampires. There's no conversation that vampires are existing. Like, you didn't even get like a guy hiding in shadows watching. Sort of.
No, or like damn, the tribe over a few counties up is getting real riled up about something. I don't know what over, or old Jim Bob went missing the other day. Like, none of that. Nothing.
You could even have a guy being like, "Oh, there's some white fella asking about you."
Yes,
like someone's looking for you.
Which would feed into the tension of the possible clan.
Yes.
But it turns out, oh no, surprise, it's vampires.
Which would have been so interesting that they think that there's some white people looking for them, and it's totally not what they expected. Like, it's completely something else.
And it would also feed into what they ran away from in Chicago, which, I mean, not to spoil it, but they double-crossed some people, and that's why they're back home. But
and they can even allude to, there's a white guy looking for us.
Yep.
That it's like, maybe it's someone from Chicago or something. It's like, you could trick the audience into thinking it could be a myriad of things.
Yeah,
and then
especially because they mentioned specifically it's the Irish and the Italians in Chicago. So they could have even gone like, there was a guy with a weird accent looking for you, and it could have been either.
And almost like Predator, it shocks them that the danger they thought is not the danger that they get.
Yes.
It's not the mob coming after them. It's not the clan. Vampires. They're like, oh no.
And like, they kind of are like, all right, so Remick and his two thralls show up and they want in. And they play their cute little bluegrass song. And like, hey, come on, let us in, friends. It's all just the love of music. Like, and they don't let them in because they're like, well, like, we don't really want to let white people in. Like, we don't want to cause any offense to anybody. Like, we're trying to keep this low key. And so, like, there's like a little bit of like, maybe these guys are clan and we don't know it. But like, it's not a through line at all. Like, it's very much more throwaway.
I would have appreciated the fact that they're anxious and might expect some danger, and they put like 5 guys standing outside with shotguns.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way, it's like, they're expecting something, and then they get they get something that they're not expecting. As opposed to it's like one heavy guy at the door.
Yeah, they have their one bouncer.
Which at least that would give me something. It give me something to transition to the latter half of this movie.
Yeah, and I again, without the
we need some guards. We're expecting trouble.
Yeah, if there was a little bit more of a through line, even just the one bouncer man, and like, this is like, we were just expecting to have to deal with drunks, not we are going to be murdered by the supernatural. Like, that, I would have even been fine with that, but there's no through line, like you said. I mean, there's just nothing, and it's very sudden, and the prologue does nothing because the other hour and a half after that is nothing about it.
Yeah, the prologue does nothing about this film, and I think the prologue is almost like thrown in arbitrarily to be like, there's monsters by different names. We're not going to talk about it for about an hour.
Yeah. I think it seems like it felt a little tacked on, like, not initially, but in retrospect. And so anyway, Remick and his thralls would like to come in. They're trying to pass themselves off as cute little bluegrass musicians that just want to share the love of music, friend. And they tell them to go away, and so we'll walk real slow. So they just kind of go hang out like a little bit down the road, a little bit where they can still see. And
I like the implication that it's like there are plenty of places for your kind to play. Like, there's still that awkward racial tension where it's like, you know, clearly you can play music and there's no reason to distress these people at this time, except for the fact that they're white.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like and that they're unknown. Like nobody knows them really.
Sure.
So they're just like, like, I don't know, man. Like you can go somewhere else. There's a lot of other places open tonight for you.
And you know what I really like? Not to derail slightly from continuing to sort of as we follow the plot, but
No.
I love the vampire rules and them staying strict to the vampire rules.
The invitation to the home is a hard rule, whether you are
very
feral or
important.
the actual vampire, and if they are not going to break it.
Yeah, it's almost like the biggest crux of the film is that you can't go in unless they let you in.
I mean, literally. Yeah. And I liked it. I mean, weirdly enough, I liked that a lot.
I really appreciated the we are sticking strictly to the rules of vampires, and if they,
it's kind of silly.
This literal like monster of a man who's extremely dangerous. It's like, but could you politely? And because there's this moment later where it's like this whole conversation of like, oh no, I can come in, and it's like, wait, like I shouldn't have to invite you. It's like you should just be able to walk in. What? And so it becomes this weird sort of moment, and I really appreciate that. I was like, oh, I love me some vampire rules. Gotta invite me in.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that too. And as we'll get into, it's too bad the vampire part doesn't last very long. But so the juke continues, and again, there's as the juke goes on, there's moments between, you know, Stack and the gal he left behind, and you know, them talking about, is this thing going to make money? Why are we taking the weird like sharecropper plantation fake money, like company money? There's all that kind of stuff going on.
I really appreciated the conversation about how these people don't have a lot of money, and what little they have are these fake little like food tokens that they get from being sharecroppers.
Yep.
And it's like, we can't take them, but it's like, if we don't, like, they don't have much, which also makes me second guess, why are they here if they know everybody's so poor? They're not going to make money off of these people.
Yeah, like, I think it ends up working out story-wise, because then they finally do admit that, like, yeah, we sort of did some shit in Chicago and we're kind of hiding, but we want to do the cool stuff we did up there.
Sure.
But yeah, I like that too, and like all the human aspect of this movie is good. I mean, whether it's Haley Steinfeld's character Mary,
the girlfriend that comes back in, and
yeah, and she's like, why won't you just love me? And he's like, you know, like all the human drama of this movie is so good, like all of it. I love all of it.
I really like the sort of distance that he creates between them, where he's like, in this world, I will hold you back if we're in a relationship, because you can pass as a white girl, even though she's like quarter white or whatever it would be.
Yeah.
And that's why he won't, because he actually does love her. Yes. But he's like, we shouldn't be in a relationship because it puts your life in danger in a different place. And it's like, oh, what a fascinating human story this is.
And it even implies that he set up her and her husband to get married. Like, so she's married to a white man in Arkansas, and like she's just there to visit because her mom died, and like she's there to bury her. But then she's trying to rekindle this thing with Stack. Like, it's all really good. Like, he cares about her so much. He just like, no, go marry this man who's a good man and can get you a good life. But we can't be together for obvious like social problems. Like, well, and as much as we love each other.
That's real love, which is so fascinating. Yes. It's like you love somebody so much that you're willing to put them into a relationship with somebody else and not be with them because of the social issues that would happen if they were together.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, man, he really cares about this lady.
It's all so good. Like
except for the stupid vampire stuff.
And so then Miss Mary wants to go out and be like, well, send me out there, because you know they got real money. Like, they showed us it. Like, why don't we well, let's let him in. Like, I'll go sniff him out and see what's up. Like, let me go.
Right.
So she goes out there to do that and gets super creeped out because apparently vampires and their thralls have a tendency to drool when they're about ready to get some sweet human blood and flesh.
Apparently.
And so he like starts drooling as he's talking to her, and she's like, okay, well, anyway, I'm going to go now. And oh no, he flies behind her and off screen bites her. Like it flashes to black, and we assume the worst. Well, then she ends up moseying on in. Well, actually, she doesn't mosey in. The nice portly gentleman who is the bouncer, she comes up and like, well, aren't you going to let me in? And he's like, oh yeah, of course. Like, come on in. And that's the invitation. But we, it's all very, very, smooth, right? It's not like it gets funny later.
And not to get ahead of the horse on this, as they convert to vampirism, as they become one of the night. In my mind, her character's gone at this point. And I'm not saying that she's gone. It's like, oh, well, in the story, she's become the undead. And it's like, no, she had interesting stuff to do and was a full-fledged character. And now she's almost a non-character. She's dumb and has nothing to do and no longer is a personality.
Yeah, literally,
she basically tries
now
to hook up with him.
Sorry, go ahead. Yes,
and then that's kind of it.
Yeah, her point in the film is to go have sex with Stack in one of the back rooms and then bite him. That's the whole point. Because as we find out later, there's like a bit of a hive mind with these things. So
they're not. It's weird. It's like they're there, but they're not. Like, in terms
like they
of
all
the plot,
have the knowledge of each other.
Right. In terms of the plot, that there's a degree of a hive mind with them, but also their personalities just suck when they become vampires. And I think that's one of my bigger gripes to the vampire aspect is it's more interesting to have a torn character that's that has the bloodlust, but then there's this relationship between you and the person that you want to eat, and sort of like, I don't want to, but I need to. But instead, it's like they are trapped. It's like they become a vampire, and it's like, yeah, I'll bite and kill people I care about deeply. And so there's no emotional threat to the relationships that these vampires have with anybody else. They get bitten and they're completely gone. There's no sort of torn. Like, the only torn between anything is the humans fighting against what were once loved ones.
Yeah, which I would have been fine with, and I was, but as we find out with our third ending, it ends up not making much sense.
No.
Our sort of beginning or mid-credits sequence that we will get into shortly. But yeah, and I think I wish they would have delved more into that, like the use of their knowledge to hurt them or like emotionally or try and trick them. You know what I mean?
And you get it a little bit where it's like
a little.
The Asian gal. Oh well, we know about your daughter.
Yeah,
but it's like as soon as they get bit, they stop being a character, which I dislike. Yeah. They should still be a character. Just now you've added this monstrous aspect to it, and this torn between people who had love and care between one another. Now there's this distance of you're now this monster, but it seems one-sided, and because Mary completely like, even though she shows up near the very end, her personality disappears. She stops being in this movie. And even though she's around, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, and I guess they kind of try to use the emotional aspect a little bit when, so they have Stack in the back room locked up, and then all of a sudden he's awake again and is talking to them through the door, wanting out. And obviously for Smoke, this is very emotional and traumatic, and like it kind of works, but at the same time, like, Oh, I almost forgot, Rhett. Do you know what I almost forgot? Ruthie, Smoke's wife, goes from not quite knowing what they are to immediately knowing what they are and exactly how to deal with them. She knows they're vampires, and she knows exactly what to do.
I think I related that moment to Snakes on a Plane. Didn't I turn to you and be like, there's some vampires up in here? Because that's essentially how she kind of reveals the information. It's like, nah, these are vampires. And okay.
Okay. It's just...
It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, like, it's so... Because then it, like... The things that run through my mind is like,
so vampires are these poorly educated poor people in the country.
Well, does that mean that like Dracula the book is real in this universe? Like, because she knows immediately all the stereotypical things: garlic, stake to the heart, have to be invited in, yada yada. Fine, but that all comes from media. So does that mean there's vampire media and real vampires? Like what? It's oh my god!
But even
it's like saying the word zombie in a zombie movie.
Well, right, but even if they're vampire movies, how would they know?
Yeah,
or vampire books and stuff. Like a lot of them are probably illiterate.
Yeah.
So how would they know about vampires? Like how famous would this is a really bad element of writing. They are presupposing that not just them, but the audience know who vampires are because they're like, oh, these vampires, and it's like they're assuming that the audience is like, stake to the heart and everything, and it's like, but they don't know, anything. There's some poor sharecroppers in the middle. How do they know what a vampire is, or even have ever heard this word before?
Now, granted, I don't know the prevalence of vampire and vampire media in 1932 in the Deep South. But all you would have had to do, because she does, it's like, what did her grandma tell her? Because she's like kind of she'd mentioned like, what was she calling it? Like hates,
something like that. I know they had a name for these monsters in their cultures in the prologue.
Yeah, but she goes, that's not that. They're vampires. It's like, what, did your grandma teach you about vampires? What are you talking about? Like, it would have still been hacky, but just have a moment where it's like, wait a minute. I read about something like this. It couldn't possibly be. Wait, see if garlic hurts them. But she just like immediately like, all right, eat all this garlic. That way we'll know if anyone here is bit. And now make sure you get wooden stakes and you got to stab them in the heart. Like, she just knows immediately. And you're like, why? Why do you know that? Like, how? What's going on?
You know, you could have had a really interesting scene where they're like, what is this? And they turn to the voodoo lady like she's the only possible person that could have an answer. And you could have a really interesting scene where she tries like 4 or 5 things. And then she gets to the garlic and she's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like that would be kind of neat, where it almost like that the Arab guy in The Mummy, where the mummy shows up and he pulls out like a bunch of different talismans and tries them to see if it works.
Yeah, the Benny.
Benny. Then he pulls out the Star of David. He starts speaking in Hebrew, and the mummy stops not because it worked, but because he's like, oh, the slave people.
Yeah, you know the language of the slaves. Oh, you could be useful. Like,
it's just I like the idea. I think it would have helped the story instead of just like these are some MF and vampires right here. Instead of like that awkward moment, she's just like, well, what is it? And she's like, I don't know. And so she pulls out a little bag and then she tries some stuff, and then she hits something. She's like, oh no. Like, this is the worst thing that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's allergic to garlic is these monsters from legend or whatever.
But see, Rhett, we couldn't do that because then that would get in the way of our second ending. Oh, God. So anyway, like there's our while Mary had gone out there, been bit, come back, our bouncer character had gone out to go take a leak. He gets bitten, and then he tries to come back in after everything had happened with Mary and Stack. And he's like, now just let me in, come on. And like, okay, well, like, you've been in and out of here all night, so what's your deal? Why do you need to be invited?
I actually really like
you
scene.
said. Me too. It's great. I think it's very fun.
It's like
and they're just kind of
the negotiation of like, oh, you have to invite them in, and so it's like trying to figure out whether or not he's a vampire. And I like this weird like, well, it's somebody who's impolite wouldn't just come on in; they gotta be invited in. It's like, why would you need to be invited in?
It's like, come on, man! Like, yeah,
I really love the semantics and the like, the writing to try and like out clever each other as to why he can or cannot come in, sort of thing.
Yeah, it was really well done, and I liked it. And so he just asks, like, well, fine, then pay me. He's like, and I'll just go home. I'll just walk home. And because he tries to be like, well, you were my ride. He's like, well, I'm not driving you home. Like, shit's happened. Like, and he's like, well, pay me. And so he goes to hand him the money, and he like yanks him out of the room, out of the house, out of the juke, and tries to kill him.
Oh, but, no, he is a vampire.
Yeah, because throughout this so far, like, Smoke had, like, I mean, absolutely lit Mary up with his 45s and didn't stop her at all, didn't phase her. He shot the bouncer, like, directly in the face, and he still tried to take a hunk out of him. So that's when they realize this is something real bad. But anyway,
it becomes like this siege movie. Can I at least roll back slightly? I really like the scene where he goes out to take a pee and then gets attacked because they add this. I always like the horror element where they're in the middle of the forest and there's darkness around and you can't see everything, and then you see sort of light, glowing eyes pop up, and sort of noises, and I was like, ooh, that's creepy looking.
And that's one thing that I really liked. Personally, that I like throughout the movie is like Remick. He has red glowing eyes when he reveals them, or like when he's like getting into his vampire self, and all the thralls have like white glowing eyes. And I really like that. I think it looks really good.
And I think we missed the moment where so after I get the two mixed up. I think it's Stack, the one that was bit.
Yes.
After he gets bit, everybody leaves except for like a handful of people.
Right.
They're all just like, well, I'm going to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. There's crazy stuff going on, which ends up being them all getting caught by the vampires out there.
Right. Yep. Which we don't see initially until later, after the bouncer had tried to pull Smoke out and attack him. Like, he runs off and they kind of regroup all together. And Remick has his moment in the sun with his people's music. And he starts singing The Rocky Road to Dublin.
Yes. I actually quite thought that scene was kind of fun. And I thought it was kind of funny where we got this very Irish guy singing Rocky Road to Dublin, and just a huge amount of black people like doing like Irish dance and jigs with them and stuff. They're like, yeah, I'm really into the Rocky Road to Dublin. It's like, are ya?
Yeah. It was funny seeing Michael B. Jordan like get amped up and hyped about Rocky Road to Dublin. I'm going to be honest. I loved it.
It was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah. I honestly, and see, that's like when the music gets used like that, like even like when the music in the juke is being sung and played, because there's this character, I forget her name, that young Sammy is into. She's a married gal.
The one that has your weird like orgasmic singing moment.
Yeah, like it's all really well done outside of the magical music. Like whether it's Delta Slim or her or Sammy prior to the magic music, or the Rocky Road to Dublin. Like, I love all of that. It's all really well done. Very good.
Once again, you could have that through line in the beginning where it's like, music that's real good could even have its own kind of magic. And then that way we have something. We get something coming into the later part where it's like, we're seeing it fulfilled. I mean, the vampire singing, and then the movie could be about the magic of music. But they don't really sell that hard enough.
Not really. I mean, it doesn't. Well, we'll get to the epilogue, but it briefly comes back in the epilogue. I mean, that's it. Like it's not anyway. So there's like there's this siege moment and like oh cool, like I like this is very fun and the Asian gal I should look up her name. Sorry, excuse me, one moment.
Yeah, you're on top of the character names here.
Yeah, that's my bad. Grace Chow. Her hubby Bo.
I love the Asian people with Southern accents.
Yeah, me too. I thought that was really fun. But her hubby Bo had gone out to start the car, and so she's still in the juke. And he comes to get her, and obviously he's bit, but he's trying to convince her to come out, and she's having a very hard time. They have to do a lot of convincing to not let him in.
Her thing's a bit weird. Because she falls apart emotionally, and she's sort of the crux of why things fall apart at the end.
Yes.
But they have this scene where he's trying to casually convince her. It's like, oh, I got the car started. Let's get going. And there's like a dead guy there. And they're like, what? You're just not going to like react at all?
Talk about that? Yeah, because the bouncer was like chewing on a guy that they thought they weren't sure if he'd been bitten or not earlier. So they just like drag him out. But it turns out he was drunk and had gotten his ass beat.
Wasn't there like tomato juice or wine or something all over the ground?
Yeah. And so the bouncer is like literally chewing on this guy's face. And they're like, so you're not going to talk about that? And he's like, well, he's hungry, whatever. And like, he just like, and then you see the bite like kind of above his armpit or whatever, like on the back of his shoulder. And that's when he's like, you got me. And like, it's funny, they try to, and I kind of liked this in a way, where like they're all talking, and Remick is talking too, but like all the thralls and everything, they're talking about like, come on, join us. Like there's no racism here. Like we're all together, and it's beautiful, and it's something you should like. And they that comes up several times throughout this siege / battle. And
I can I address something?
Sure.
The vampires don't seem so scary. Because he's not really killing them. He's literally giving everybody eternal life.
That's the thing, and which we do see, which will come back in the epilogue, and that's the thing, because like
he's actually not that evil, which takes away something from the movie because of this like siege like event going on where they're trapped in this sort of barn, and it's like he's really just giving people eternal life, and he might even care because they're like, oh, you're all gonna die, and it's like, yeah, and become vampires, and even they're not even just eating everybody, they're all coming back to life. They've literally killed or eliminated nobody who doesn't come back up. So it's like, how terrible is this? I guess.
Yeah. And it turns out you'll have all your memories and stuff. It's just you share it with everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, like it's almost more like a Invasion of the Body Snatchers thing, I guess. And where
it's not even that unattractive. And they could have even added something like that where it's like, it's actually kind of attractive, sort of what he's offering. But they didn't really go into that, which they could have.
A little, like only in the like we can all be together and it's beautiful and it's there's no difference. It's all just us together. But
I would have liked them to be a lot more persuasive and then have somebody step out and then show it's not that bad, and then everybody else sort of second guess. But then the reason why that conversation gets snubbed is because the Asian gal gets all emotional about the fact that they're threatening her daughter.
Yeah, they well, we know where she is, and it's like, oh dear.
There's so many things you could have done with these little elements you added to the story, but they just don't. They don't do anything.
No, they don't, and because as it turns out, the vampire part isn't very important.
In a vampire movie, it's the least important aspect of this film.
Yeah, because that's and I hate bringing up 30 Days a Night so much, but like it's a really similar vibe, or at least a similar concept, where like it's horrifying. Like 30 Days, like you're going to be eaten horribly, There's no you get brought back. It's no you just get torn apart and eaten like cattle. Like it's horrific.
Right.
And whereas this, it's like, oh, you know, yeah, you probably get some chunks ripped out of you, but you're just coming back. It's all right. So yeah, you're totally right. The threat is very minimal.
Well, it gets lessened as time goes on because you realize, oh, all those people that they caught and they ate, and it's like, no, they're fine. They're at their day. I mean, they're quote unquote dead, but it's like they're all singing a jolly tune, the Rocky Road to Dublin.
Yeah, they're sounds like they're having a great time out there.
There's like 30 party goers out there, just a bunch of black people singing a traditional Irish folk song.
Yeah, people love Irish music, you know?
Especially the
yes.
brothers.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, so they end up threatening Grace and Beau's daughter, like, well, we know where she is. We'll go pay her a visit and all this stuff because we know everything like that we all know from each other. And so she like has a freak out and literally says, "All of you come in here now," or something like that. Invites them all in, and they
and gets everybody killed.
Yes, she literally like
nobody's winning.
She tries to throw like the Molotov cocktail at Remick. He bats it away. And then she like goes for her husband, and she gets lit on fire while stabbing him in the heart.
Yeah, everything's her fault.
Yeah, and so like everything goes to hell. Like people are picked off one by one. Like first Ruthie, and then Delta Slim, and then like they get upstairs and they're fighting them off like kind of on the upper catwalk of this old sawmill, and I forget her name. I should look it up. The married gal that I think it's Therese, or is it Annie? I think it's Annie. She ends up getting bit and taken over, so Sammy's sad. And then it's eventually it's just down to Smoke and Sam. And Sam, like, they try to go out like the top loft. Like, it's not a hay loft, but it's like a big balcony out the back, and he gets like pulled back inside by a stack, and they're fighting each other. Well, Sammy ends up out there and running off into the water, like this like little pond or lake, and Remick's after him, and he's got him right there when Sammy hits him in the head with his steel guitar, when it turns out it wasn't steel, it was silver. And that silver disc on that guitar is in his head, like burning, and it burns all the thralls too. And I think, when does Smoke come back? Because he comes back to save Sam. It's right while they're in the pond.
He was fighting with his brother, and then that cuts away, and we don't find out what happens there. He just suddenly appears in the water, like 20 feet away. Suddenly he's there. And you get that iconic sort of visual moment of them holding each other.
Yeah.
That you see in the trailer and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And so Smoke stabs Remick with the stake, and then the sun comes up, and it burns him, Remick, and all the thralls that we can see.
And he turns into a fire NATO.
He does. Yes, he does. I forgot about that.
Yeah. There's an element at this point that I'd like to bring up.
Sure.
So I get the impression, and this might just be me blowing smoke out my rear end, but I get the impression that there are a few elements to this movie that exist solely to cater to sort of a younger audience. The music scene where he's playing and suddenly it's like, because it's like, I think there's a fear that younger audience might just not care about the blues. And so there's this effort to incorporate other elements of music into it to sort of pander to other people. It's like, see, and modern pop and rap and stuff like it's just as good. And this magic power carries into other things and through generations has an effect on everybody around them. And it's like, it feels like that element is solely there as a pandering element. Because that is also one of my gripes when it comes to them, her inviting all the vampires in and then everybody dying. that exists solely for the fact that they need a scene where they have a big cool fight. Because that doesn't make a lot of sense or would be really dumb. Because that way they can have this moment where visually they're all standing there holding weapons like they're going to fight them all. But in reality, they all basically just die. Like it's just horrible. And there are elements that are, I think, the weakest parts of this movie that seem to try and pander to sort of a general audience, younger generation. Oh, but we need a cool fight scene where Michael B. Jordan's sitting there with sleeveless, with, really jacked, and he's going to fight the vampires. And it's like, thematically, it's like, you don't need that. Or like the music where you bring in like a modern music and see how this character, rap and stuff, and the ladies twerking. It's like, but you don't need that. And it feels disconnected. Where you have a very real, grounded moments, and then you have almost like now we're gonna fight these vampires, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really need that, because this isn't a John Wick. That this was a more grounded film, and now we have to have this big action scene with the vampires, and it feels so disconnected. Almost like this was added later, or either through writing or through filming. Am I off base by this?
Maybe. I mean, the fights with the vampires, I didn't get that so much. We're almost to our second ending, and that absolutely was added late. Like that feels super tacked on. Like, well, we got to have a cool badass moment. And
it almost felt like the Avengers scene where they're all standing there like, yeah, let them come. And it's like, really?
Yeah, like it. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. At least, certainly not entirely.
It feels disconnected.
Once
like
everything
this is
goes
catering to someone else who's a younger.
Yeah, because like once everything starts going to hell in there, like I'm fine. Like I don't notice it as bad. But yeah, I thinking of that moment where they're all standing in a line together as the big doors open. I was like, yeah. I don't think you're wrong on that. But yeah, so you think, oh, that was it? I mean, because this is not a long chunk. Like the siege and the fight with the vampires. I mean, what was that? 30 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
And you think that's it? That's the ending? Well, Rhett,
the vampires come and they go.
No, it isn't. That ain't the end of that movie. Hell no, sir. We still got more to go. And so Smoke tells young Sammy to go home and get out of here. And so that's where we see the beginning end now. Like it's now in the timeline correctly. It's all in order. But there's still, but old Smoke, Michael B. Jordan, he's got some business to attend to. And you think, what? What the hell business do you have to attend to? Well, by God, we got some clan members to kill, don't we, Rhett? Because earlier in the film, and I remember thinking this specifically, they mention while the juke's going on, like, oh, we need to go get the crate. We forgot about that. And you go, crate? And I knew what they were talking about, because I remember in one of the trailers, there's a scene where they open up a crate, or I should say a crate is opened up, and you see an arsenal. You see a BAR, some grenades, so on and so forth.
Sure.
And I was thinking, like, wait, are they not going to do that? And oh no, they'll do that. But it's not for the vampires. So, remind me, Rhett, how does he know that they're going to come? Does he, like... Because, like, they deal with the vampires, and then he just kind of assumes or knows, like, no,
besides the fact that they think those racist people might show up, that they're on guard, but I don't recall him. Like, I think we get an aside where later they suggest that he's going to come back. What's that?
I remember what it was. It was the two initial thralls that Remick got. They were nephew and step niece
And then we're going to come
niece
back
in
and
law.
kill you. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, niece-in-law of that gentleman they bought the property for, who turns out is a member of the Klan, because they had shown that the guy that was bit in that farmhouse, like he had a Klan robes. He had Klan robes.
Sure.
So yeah, they'd mentioned it in that, and because they were going, no, we don't believe in that now. Like we're beyond that. That's one of those moments where they were like, come with us, we're all together.
Hard to be racist when you're in a hive mind.
The racism goes away. That's it. It's over with.
That should tell you the hive mind cures it all.
Cures it all. Turns out the communist bugs of the 50s were correct the whole time.
Yeah.
But so he knows that the uncle and his racist friends are going to come mess with him anyway. So
What's
he gets
the purpose
prepared.
of this? What's he defending?
I don't know. What, the scene where his family is ended and his brother was turned into a horrible supernatural monster, and I don't know. I mean, I guess he just wants revenge now. Like, and we all know the purpose of this scene, which is also disconnected from the grounded element of the first part. So it's like the first part of the movie feels like the Untouchables, and the latter half is like, oh, well, maybe Elliot Ness shows up and blows away 30 people. Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? And I think it both in the... Now, I want to preface this by saying this second ending we're going to get into here shortly, the destruction of the racists, of the hidden Klan members.
Yeah.
I would have been fine with. If they had just deleted the supernatural element out of this film, and we just had a cool period piece
with the Klan going after. That's a good movie.
Yeah, like crime drama with revenge again. Like dealing with the Klan in a violent manner. Totally fine. I think that would be great, and it's a cool scene. I mean, it's a cool series of scenes when he's doing.
Well, it's a little action movie indulgent.
Oh, totally. Sure, but I'm fine with it. It looks good.
It feels. It feels tonally. It doesn't feel correct when it comes to the first part of the movie.
Sure, but we've already had the vampires now.
Well, yes, I agree. But then again, tonally, it's like we just had our big final battle. We need another one just so that the director could sit and touch his nipples and feel like he set up a scene where he murders a bunch of Klansmen.
Yeah, like that's the thing, because you know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. Where it's not aggressive and violent. You don't have like this crazy scene, and then suddenly you get this. It feels like, oh, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's like because like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's like, oh, we're like, this is us, like our fantasy, like dealing with these monsters that kind of hurt Hollywood and hurt like the sanctity of like, and ruin these people's lives, right? Like murdered an innocent pregnant woman.
The director put this in just so that he could have I'm diddling myself to the idea of killing a bunch of Klansmen.
Yeah, and you're not wrong that tonally the way the action worked was probably not quite right. Like it probably should have been a little bit more Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, or Untouchables or something like that.
Yeah, a little less over the top, but it's whatever. Like it is still cool, but it like the tone between
John Wick's a bunch of
oh
rednecks.
My god. Yeah, and the tone even within this scene gets weird, but the tone between the first half, like the very different from the vampires, which is very different from this, and after he's dealt with everybody except the guy he bought the property from. I think I can't remember his name, but anyway, he there's this moment because he's been shot a couple times where he's dying. Clearly, Hogwood is the racist man's name. And he looks over and he sees his wife with their son, because she'd made him promise that, like, look, if I get bit, don't let me turn into one of them. So he had staked her in the heart. She dies naturally,
which is a touching scene that if they didn't have any of the redneck like indulgent, I'm going to kill a bunch of racist white people, it would have been a nice, like, he's hurt at the very end of the movie and he just sits down and passes away and sees his wife and son. It's like, oh, that's a beautiful moment.
Yeah, and he even like reaches out for his son, and then you hear like Hogwood like coughing and spluttering, and he looks back angrily and then unloads an entire magazine from his Thompson into him, and then looks back over to reach for his son. Or it's like, oh my god,
Screw you,
whatever.
racist white man.
Like, I mean, it's a thing where like I disconnected from the rest of the movie. Like, like, all right.
Well, if that's what the movie was about, then fine. Where it's like an action movie where he's killing Klansmen, then it's like, okay. But you had this very grounded drama, and then you have weird vampire stuff, and then he John Wicks a bunch of racists at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Can I tell you how odd it was that he had that gun buried so that he can shoot and then kick the lid off and then pull the gun up and then keep shooting?
Yeah, it's a very strange way to set up your ambush.
Couldn't he just have the gun slung over your back? Did you have to have it where you just walk and then you have this hidden gun in the ground?
Yeah. I mean, maybe grenades would have made more sense to have stashed in there, but not a gun.
Yeah. He solos everybody.
Yeah. And so, all right, that part of this film's over. And now, so we see Sammy, the young man. He goes back to his father, and we see it like we did at the beginning. His father's trying to convince him in front of the congregation, as he's all battered and beaten, scratched, to give up his ways and turn his back on those sinners and give himself to God. And we see now that he walks away with the neck of that guitar that's left after breaking it across Remmick's face. And Rhett, did you expect a third ending? Because I sure didn't. Now we have epilogue ending.
It's not even halfway through the credits. It's like a quarter in.
Yeah, it's barely into it. And what we see is young Sammy is an older man now. It's 1992. And he's
become this iconic man with scars on his face from the vampire.
Yeah. And he's playing at this blues bar in Chicago. And you know, he's made a ton of records over the years, and clearly he's a very famous blues player. And as the bar closes up, and it's implied it's his bar, or at least.
Did you try and think? Because I sat and thought, it's like, what is he telling people about where those scars came from?
Right, like I would say like, that it was like,
well, I got it when I was younger. It's like, oh, some vampire like scratched my face.
Yeah, like it depends. Like you either say it's like a cotton like farming accident, or you try and zhuzh it up a little bit for the magazines and say like a Klansman attacked you.
Well, because clearly for the promotional stuff, it's like there's a big black and white image. I think it was black and white image on the back wall of his face, and the scars are displayed prominently. So it's almost like that symbolism of his scars and his blues playing are sort of connected. So that it's like, oh, you know, the famous blues player with the scars on his face.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, what is he telling people where that came from? Because inevitably people are going to ask at this point in his life. It's like, oh God. You go, Uncle Sammy, where'd you get those scars? It's like, well, back in the day, me and my cousins fought off a bunch of vampires in the South.
Yeah. There was a Mick vampire who came, and he liked the way I played so much, he attacked the place I was playing at.
And if you felt disappointed that we weren't going to have this big conversation about racism, well, we get a jarring moment at the end where my cousin dies killing a bunch of Klansmen. Just so that we could feel like we talked about, or we got our revenge symbolically in the film.
Yeah, and despite the fact that people that actually hurt us have all been turned to ash, but whatever.
Yeah, I thought about it. I was like, would there be, not to derail because we're talking about the third ending, but it's like, would there be a lot of questions about what happened? Literally like 30 people disappeared that were turned into vampires. Well, and then you've got like 8 or 9 Klansmen that are all just dead. Like a huge amount of people disappeared from this community.
Yeah. This would I mean, even the most
this should show up in the papers.
Oh my god! Well, even the most favorable reading of this, like where all the people that went missing from the juke, like let's say they were killed by, like they assume they were killed by the Klansmen, right?
Right.
Yeah. It would still be so, the retaliation would be so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and like the
well, especially all the dead Klansmen too would cause a big retaliation.
Yeah, like the friction and tension and violence that would happen in this community. I mean
the federal government would send like National Guard down. It would be this thing.
Yeah, the National Guard would absolutely be called down, or the paratroopers. Like, it would be bad. It would be so bad. Like, people talk about like Black Wall Street. It would be like that, but worse.
Oh yeah, because it's like lynchings happened and they were horrible. 30 people would be a big problem.
Yeah, like nobody's taking that line down. Neither the white side nor the black. Like, it would be bad. Like, and the least favorable is they just all those folks that were at the juke ran away, and this African, well, they wouldn't say African American gentleman murdered these fine upstanding gentlemen of our community. It would be horrific. And yeah, it would be really bad. But so the bartender says, like, hey, a couple of people want to come see you, like, but I told them we're closed. And Sammy says, let him in. And Rhett, who walks in but old Stack and Mary.
Yeah.
Which was very confusing to me, because I swear I remember seeing Mary burn up in the sunlight. But
I guess she did.
Maybe I didn't see it. Because I looked at you and like, wait, didn't they all burn up? And you're like, no, remember, we didn't see Stack come out of the building, so he was still in there. And as it turns out, you were right, because
we get a little cut.
They're talking. Yeah, they're talking to each other. He's like, yeah, like he told me he maybe promised to leave you alone. And so I did.
Which is disconnected from how the vampires were dealt with. Because the vampires were dealt with as if they had no personalities of their own. But then that implies that he did, and he cared enough about his brother to not go after his cousin.
Yep.
And I was like, well, what is it? Which one is it?
Because, like, they make a point of mentioning earlier on that even if you kill the one that turned them, they don't go away. So it's like, okay, but then, like, because the implication prior to that is that Remick is using, like, almost working through these people that he has in thrall and using their knowledge, of course, that he has access to try and, like, get in there, get more people turned, whatever, right?
What's his goal exactly? To have a bajillion thralls? He doesn't kill anyone.
And that's the other thing I told you after we watched this. I was like, this would be the most devastatingly... Because, I mean, they had like 30, 40 people turned in one evening? Like, this would be the most devastating and, like, to deal with sort of vampirism ever.
It's almost like a zombie plague. They just keep getting bigger and...
Yeah, like, every night, like, every morning you'd wake up and have to call around and be like, please God, like, don't let there be vampire hordes. Because, like, what are we going to do? Like, good Lord. Like,
at least they have you have to invite them in rule. Because otherwise, things would get really bad.
Yeah. But, anyway, so Mary, they're dressed so stereotypically. I mean, Mary looks like she just walked out of My Cousin Vinny, and Stack looks like he's about ready to go into a hip-hop music video. Got a big set of rings on his fingers that say Stack. Like, it's so silly. He's wearing like a big knit sweater.
Nothing.
Nope, she doesn't say anything. They just sit there and enjoy Sammy playing music for them personally, and like and I'll say that, I mean, they look like such a couple, I guess, but it's just like, what is going on? Like, what is the point of this shit? And like, Stack offers to turn him, and Sammy says, no, I've seen enough of this world, like, I don't need to keep seeing more of it, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just them like touching base and saying howdy do and good luck and bye. I mean, that's all I remember them talking about, other than going over the smoke, let him live.
Well, I think we're supposed to sit there and be like, oh my gosh, he's still alive and he's out there. And
it's so bad. Like, oh, you know what? Mary does say something. She says goodbye.
Oh, yeah. Because like I said, that moment she turns, suddenly she stops being a personality in the show.
Yeah, and she says goodbye very sweetly. Like, goodbye, Sammy. Like,
and for all intents and purposes, she's dead as a person.
But apparently they're not. Apparently, no, it's them in there, I guess. But maybe it's because they're just sharing each other's
dead. Memory. Her character goes away. Now she's just a husk of a person. Because they give her nothing to do after that point.
No. And on top of that, like, even Stack, like, I don't know, like, he's, like, very aggressive and, like, all this stuff, like, while he's Thrall. But then he's not once it's just those two. So maybe they're, like, their personalities are merged. Are they, like, an AI? Or it's like they're part of the greater collective, just the two of them, though?
Maybe she doesn't have to talk. He can talk for both of them.
Yeah. Very sexist, though. But,
oh, yeah.
So that's our film. The 3-ending film that the tone went from really good, grounded crime drama to sort of campy vampirism that was incredibly truncated to bizarre,
bad.
bizarre grindhouse revenge flick against Klansmen. And then we had what is supposed to be a touching reunion that seemed bizarre and odd, like weirdly placed.
Yeah. Where he comes swaggering in. He even had like an 80s attitude. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Yep. The tone of this movie had a really hard time figuring out what it wanted to be, and the pacing. Because, like, that beginning part, to me, felt very well paced. But then there's parts of it where, like, it kind of goes on. Like, once the vampirism goes, like, that feels really short. But then it feels really long by the time you're at the, like, Sammy talking to his father again in the church. It's such a strange movie. It leaves you feeling so oddly.
Yeah, because it's almost like there are a few elements you could just add, just a couple little scenes or a little bit of something to give you a little bit more. I kept thinking with the with his dad and the music, and I know most people would feel that he doesn't really need that at the beginning of the movie, but I almost kind of want him to say it's like, oh, that music won't do you any good, and he's like, oh, but I love it, sort of thing. That way, by the end, when he chooses the music, you're like, oh, okay, as opposed to he just kind of sheepishly stands there as his dad tells him it's of the devil.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, music doesn't have to be evil, sort of thing, Pa. But
yeah,
it's like
he
just
really
stands there. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you don't really feel the he's torn between the two. You just feel it's like, well, he likes to play the music and his dad doesn't like it. You could have given me something there. But there's no through line. It's like I kept trying to think when we talked about after the movie came out, or after we saw the movie, what is this about? And I was like, it's not really about vampires.
No.
It's not really about racism. It's
not really.
Kind of about magic blues. But even the magical part only serves one scene and to justify the vampire showing up. And the rest of it is, I like to play blues later. So it's not even really about blues or even the magic of his playing the blues.
Yeah, it's really. And
kind of about the fact that he likes, I mean, the family, the relationship, I guess, between him and his cousins, kind of, but they don't lean on that enough to make that the theme of the movie.
No.
Where it's like, we mean a lot to each other, and that's why it's like, even though, oh no, he's a vampire, we still mean something to each other. But that would serve something if the brother survived. That way, it's like, you still mean something to me, even though we've drawn distance because I'm a monster now.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of there, I guess, but not strongly enough that what makes it doesn't make you feel that that's really what the movie's about. And like him picking the music is so funny because, I mean, it's like in that epilogue, he literally goes like, "Well, I think about that day, and that was like the best day of my life." And and you're like, "Oh, the one where everybody you knew died or got turned into a horror monster." Oh,
well,
okay.
And the movie almost wants to tell you that one night is what the movie's about.
Yeah,
I guess.
It
was like, it was an amazing night where we magically saw one of your future degenerate children twerking.
Which even here in 92, we ain't seen yet. And boy, I'm sure excited for it.
My children will lose their moral values in the future.
Oh, God. That's not very bluesy. I've been thinking about, like, this weekend, I've been thinking about, like, what is this movie actually about? What is it trying to say?
I don't know.
And Rhett, I don't know. And look, I'm not. This show, we call it media illiterate.
Yeah, we're not claiming to be super smart. Hence the song in the beginning implies we're really stupid, so that you can't place any sort of expectation on us. Well, you guys don't know what you're talking about. It's like, we never claimed we did.
Yeah, like I am not a bright man, but I can usually pick out what the movie's trying to tell you.
I am not a smart man.
I am not a smart man, Jen A. But I don't know what this movie's trying to tell me. Because it could say several things. It could say many things. And maybe it's saying all of them at once, and maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
Which comes to a failure in writing. I don't know if it's accurate to call it MacGuffin, but I'm going to call the magic music of MacGuffin. But it's like the story kind of falls apart from sort of an elegant period piece into we have this weird MacGuffin magic in order to draw a vampire that really isn't that important. And then at the end, family's still important or something.
Yeah.
Maybe racism? I don't know.
Maybe, but like...
That's not really
got a white guy working for him in the bar in the 90s, so I don't think so.
Well, they spend so much time not addressing the racism in an elegant way, and then at the end, inelegantly, I'm going to kill the racists, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that completely damaged that whole thing I stated in the beginning about how elegant they dealt with the racism at the time, and that they didn't focus the movie on that. And at the very end, he kills a bunch of Klansmen just so that they can get it out of their system. It's like, but if you want to make that movie, make that movie.
Yeah, and I would probably still enjoy it. And I'm almost, I wish, like my wish would be that I would rather have the first movie, even the first part of the movie, with a well done, that's important, vampirism plot. You know what I mean? Like the last third of the movie, whatever.
Right.
I would still like that. That would be great. But they don't do that. And I like, we talked about this too, where it's like I wouldn't mind, and I mentioned it earlier, like the first part of the movie plus gritty, and just continue that gritty crimeness, take out the supernatural and have it be, we end up having to fight the Klan. Okay, that'd be great too. But this
just the Klan instead of the vampires would have worked, yeah.
Yeah, that would have worked great. And combine but then having both of those plus the magic music MacGuffin, it gets so lost in the sauce. Like I get wanting to pay homage to black music and culture.
That's
fine.
My favorite
That's
part.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes. But then it has to but then having to draw in black music and culture from not just that period, but from the future of that period, which is still our past. But it's just like, what? Why? I don't care. Like, that doesn't make sense for this tone that you're going for. Like, it's all...
And that only exists so that they could justify the vampire being like, I want his magic in my great mind group because I want to see my ancestors or something.
Which isn't even the best reason for the vampire.
It could just be vampires want to kill people. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Yes, and eat them. Exactly. That's not even the best excuse to have vampires show up. It's a really weird one.
That's a really
especially
stupid
when it's
excuse.
Not set up. And all of this combined.
Oh, finish your thought. Sorry.
I was just going to say, all of this combined makes for such a baffling movie that, like, and our previous episode of our regular podcast, I kind of almost forgot, like, I don't know how to word this. Parts of this movie are so well done, and I like so much that I forget that the rest of the movie isn't that good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like, and it's not that any one part of this movie, this movie isn't dog shit, right? Like, it's not a horrible piece of crap, but it's not very good either. Like, parts of it are incredible.
Parts are incredible, and then the last like half is just really bad.
Yeah, and mostly because it's neither fish nor fowl. It won't pick the thing. It wants all of them.
And I think that's what I was going to say. Normal movies, when you have this problem where you have too many sort of, I guess, plot lines that you're trying to deal with, and it's like you need to pick one and focus, and then you can have your like B, C plot sort of thing.
Yeah.
Normal movies, that's sort of an issue throughout. But this movie does it very weirdly. Like, I've never seen a movie do this, where they don't have that juggling problem of different themes until halfway through the film.
Yeah.
And so halfway through the film, suddenly everything changes, and they introduce a bunch of themes, and you're confused as to which one's supposed to be what the movie's about. And it doesn't happen until the latter half, and all of a sudden all of that feels rushed and unfocused and then dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Family? I don't know. No?
Yeah. You're right, it is so weird that, like, normally the juggling starts early on and goes back and forth to the point of being confusing, whereas this, if it does it at all, it's like right before, they start getting the juke set up, then we see vampires, then we go back to the juke, and then the vampires show up at the juke, and that's it. And that's the only juggling they do, because then, oh my god, it's so weird. Yeah, you're right. Like, they just keep, all right, we're done with that, now it's this. Now we're done with that, now it's this. Like, there's not, as we've said, there's no through line, and there's not really any, like, very well done setting of anything up. Which, had you not had to have a second and third ending, if I would have been fine with introducing the vampires where they did, if the rest of the film was dedicated to them in a sense, right? But it's not. So then it, like I said, it feels truncated. And
because they rush a bunch of different themes in the latter half of the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
So the movie feels long and also short.
Yes. Yeah. That was the one thing I remember while watching it. It's like I at different points felt like, oh my god, this went really fast, and oh my god, it's still going. When it's not that long of a movie. It's
Can we explore something really quick?
Sure.
I was sitting here thinking about Quentin Tarantino movies. Now, I am not a massive Quentin Tarantino fan. There are a couple of movies I really like. And one thing Tarantino, and maybe I'm just trying to explore this because I don't fully understand what he was talking about. One thing he usually says is one thing Americans used to do really well is be storytellers. And so I started thinking about his movies and sort of what they're about. And they tend not to be like, oh, well, this is a racism movie, or this is an action. They tend to be sort of a story that unfolds, which I actually appreciate in its own way. And it works really well in the movies that I like of his, that the story kind of unfolds as it goes. But I don't think it's fair to say that there's no through line through his movies, because in a way, Sinners kind of unfolds like a Tarantino movie, where it's like the events kind of, it's like this happens and then therefore this happens and therefore and sort of things unfold in a natural story, like things just kind of happen. But you don't get in a Tarantino, like it's like the quest for the briefcase, or sort of dealing with the aging actor who has no place in anything in a period of transitional cultural time in America, or we're all being stranded in this cabin and no one can trust each other because no one knows. Like there's a through line despite the fact that the story unfolds in a natural way. And I think Sinners, where it feels really good, is it does an element that I think Tarantino movies do really well, is it unfolds like a good storyteller telling would. But the problem is there's nothing that carries it, and then it has a bunch of issues with sort of theme and tone. Because like Tarantino can have that weird aspect of like, oh, this is like a Hollywood period piece, and then really comedic slapstick violence at the end of it.
Yeah.
That feels like out of place and odd. I don't know. Do you see where I'm trying to explore the idea?
Yeah. Like, I think I get what you're saying. I mean, like, one of the... Yes. Because, I mean, something like... I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, just tonally, would be like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where, like, he, like, throws the can of dog food at that person's face, that woman's face. And it's, like, slapsticky. Yeah. But then there's like horribly being burnt alive by a flamethrower in the pool, which is horrible and yet funny. And
yeah, you're supposed to be giggling as this person's melted alive, who should have been dead like 40 times ago.
Yeah, and it's just like, yeah, I
from what came from a very, very grounded story about old Hollywood and an aging actor and trying to transition in this changing world, and then it's just like, what is this?
You know what difference there is there, though? Is that, like, very early on, we see the Manson family in that movie.
Well, it doesn't feel as a shock
in this movie.
Yeah, we don't get the vampires early on.
Yeah. And
but because it's like him dealing with the Manson thing is like, it's... much like when you talked about him dealing with the Klan, is it's like the director getting the revenge on what had happened, because the Manson killings felt like a losing of innocence sort of element. And in the story, it works really well because Leonardo DiCaprio's character killing the Manson family is him killing those... He is the old school guy killing the new changes happening to Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
It's like in this transition, he pushes it down in a comical way. It's like, yeah, screw you guys, and just blows these guys away.
Yeah, like in the perfect world, the old school Hollywood star would have
dealt with this. Yes. Yeah. But I don't get that with him dealing with the Klan at the end. Because that's not... it doesn't fit thematically with what's happening with the story. And if it does, and if the director sits here and is like, well, it's because this, that, and it's like, I'd be interested to see what he has to say about that, because all it does is feel like him secretly giggling as he gets his revenge of the Klan, and it feels out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. And And I guess that's one thing I can say for Ryan Coogler in his defense, I guess, or like in praise of him, is that like for the most part, these scenes, these ending, like, well, not the epilogue ending, but like the vampire ending and the clan ending, they're both well done. I mean, they're both like put together well, stylish, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, he can direct.
But, yeah, like but then the how they're put together and like kind of crammed together is really jarring. And it, you're right. Like there's no, and this is written by Ryan Coogler. I had to look that up real quick, which makes sense.
He can write dialogue.
Yes, he can. He
cannot structure his story.
Apparently not. Good Lord.
I would like to see him direct somebody else's work.
Yeah,
maybe a more coherent plot to see what he comes up with. Not to derail what you were trying to say. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, and yeah, and it's just kind of with a couple more passes with the script, I think it would have been a little bit tighter. But then I think the reality is Ryan Coogler probably has a pretty good rep right now in Hollywood, and so I think they're probably letting him kind of do his own thing. You know, I'm curious to know how much studio and or producer interference there was with this movie.
Yeah,
because
I would be surprised how much there was. But then again, it probably wasn't a cheap film.
No, it was $90 million is what I've seen reported, which, granted, in a world where a Snow White film with reshoots is maybe a $360 some odd million film. Yeah. That's downright dirt cheap for how good this movie looks.
And I think it's doing well in the theaters, which is like good for him. But.
Yeah, I've heard that domestically we're at like 48 million, and worldwide right now on the opening weekend we're at like 61 or 3 million. So like total,
so not as
like
amazing
worldwide.
As I thought, but we're still early.
Yeah, it's early. We've got time. Like supposedly it did dethrone Minecraft this weekend, which of course, like if it didn't, that would have been a bummer. So I'm glad it could at least do that. But so as long as this movie has some legs, which I think it has the potential to, it can at least not be a flop, right? How long those legs can run, I don't know. If it can actually have it make good money, we'll see. I despite my criticisms of this film, and I want this movie to do well. I do. I don't think it deserves to make $1 billion or anything, but this movie deserves to make money because at the very least it's interesting. At the very least it's crafted very competently as far as the cinematography, the look, and like you said, the writing as far as dialogue goes.
Oh, really? Well done,
yeah. However, it definitely has its issues as we've gone over. I not that I want to drag this out, but one thing I do want to kind of mention, because I've been thinking about it, and I've seen some other creators on YouTube talk about the state of Hollywood and how things have been in the past and how they are right now. I think in years gone by, this probably would have been a slightly less, like a more modestly budgeted film. And I think it would have had its place in the sun, even though it wouldn't have been at the center spotlight. You know what I mean?
If it was a lot more modestly budgeted, we might actually see it as some sort of like almost art house. Hey, you should check this out. They do some interesting things.
Yep.
Because you don't hold it up to a standard because it wasn't super expensive. So you almost feel like they're experimenting with stuff as opposed to, oh, they spent that much money, they should have spent more time on the script here because it's janky.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because the reality is, and I think with normal movies that aren't major brands and IPs, $90 million is big bucks. However, because so much of Hollywood has been centered around those big brands and IPs, where, I mean, they try and tell you that $180 million is modest.
Who's the production company?
Oh, good question. I'm gonna look that up real quick. I don't know. I don't remember. Let me find out for you.
I don't know if when I bring it up, but I found I was thinking it was this whole side thing I was curious about asking you about, but let's finish what we're talking about here. Now that we're already gearing into like winding down the discussion and coming to conclusions about how well it did, and the problem with Hollywood and spending too much money.
So this is a Warner Brothers production and what's Proximity Media, which is Ryan Coogler's company.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking this is a Warner Brothers. They cannot afford to spend this kind of money.
No, they
Warner
cannot.
Brothers is a perpetual downfall. They're constantly cutting off, and they spent $90 million on this? Really?
Yeah.
How much did the first Joker cost?
50, right?
Yeah, something absurd. 90?
Yeah.
90 on this. They must really have believed in Ryan Coogler. Look, I like Creed. If somebody said, oh, well, we got Ryan Coogler, I'd have been like, I mean, Black Panther's mediocre. Like I wouldn't have seen him as a guaranteed win if I were to invest money behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like a... the comedy guy who went on and made a bunch of horror movies? Like, at least with him, if you threw money at him, you'd probably get a return because he can do a lot with a little bit amount of money.
Yeah.
Peele from King and Peele, is that who it was? King and Peele?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But with Ryan Coogler, it's like, I don't know if throwing money at him would have been a guarantee. So this is a risk, and WB can't afford risks.
No,
they're hemorrhaging
really
money. I mean, they might be bought out or merged or something. Like, well, what a risk this movie is.
It's interesting. I mean, and again, especially where Hollywood right now is very reliant on IP.
Yeah.
For previously established own IP. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope it works out. I mean, I genuinely do, because I mean, this is a stereotype now among people who like movies and like film as an art, is that, I want original films to do well because Hollywood will ride a horse till it dies, as is evidenced by the hilarious, comparatively very slow downfall of the superhero film right now.
Right. Where
they won't make changes and they'll keep making the same mistake over and over again until it's just in the dirt. And so I think original movies, that's something we'd like, right? Because some of the best movies I can think of, I mean, yes, there are some that are IP. I mean, obviously, Godfather is the really famous artsy Hollywood film. It's IP. It was a book first, but there's some really great movies out there that were just original. Hey, we're going to make a movie about this. Let's do it.
How do I say this elegantly? It's not. He seems like an interesting director that might have a lot of future with what because he might be able to produce some really interesting movies. And I mean, maybe even Oscar quality movies. We'll have to see what his career looks like down the road. However, and I know this is going to sound weird, but he seems to, I would like him not to be, not that telling black stories is a bad thing, but I would like him not to be not typecast, but sort of hamstrung in all of the movies I make are black stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he seems like a good enough director that he could do sort of interesting stories that don't have to be one thing or another. That's my biggest problem with Peele, is it's like, oh, he does some horror movies that seem to be doing really well. And it's like, yeah, they're all black horror movies. And it's like, I mean, okay, but that kind of restricts you. It's like you can do a lot more. It doesn't even have to be white stuff or anything. And I'm not even saying that like the racial element, like just narrowing your focus to black theme stories. Like you can make a new movie that has like a spy movie and have Michael B. Jordan in it. Like it's not that big a deal. But it almost like Peele, it seems like he's narrowing himself into only this niche thing, and I think that's going to restrict his ability to grow as a director.
Yeah, and let me look because because I'm not a big superhero guy. I haven't really seen much of Ryan Coogler's other films, right?
Because the Black Panther is
Black Panther. Yeah, not my thing.
It's mid at best.
But you know who did the movie or the music for this movie?
Who's that?
A gentleman by the name of Ludwig Göransson, who has had quite the career rate lately. And I want to say, and I could be wrong. I was looking it up just barely. I want to say he did work for Red Dead Redemption.
Did he?
I think he did. I can't find it in his Wikipedia, but when I Google it, he comes up with it. And I think he did.
Interesting.
Oh, that's right. Ryan Coogler did Fruitvale Station. Yeah, that's his first big movie.
Was that the violence that happened at that subway station? Or
yeah, the BART. Yeah, in Oakland.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe he feels that black stories are underserved, which is perfectly fine. Granted.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's like you do that, you kind of corner yourself storytelling wise. And I'm not saying he has to feature white people in his movies. I'm just saying it's, and maybe that's not a bad thing. It would almost be like Steven Spielberg making only Jewish themed movies, and it's like you could do so much more. I mean, you got a Saving Private Ryan in you,
right? And like, there's obviously some distinctly Jewish things in some of his films, like, and I mean, obviously the huge one would be Schindler's List, but like it'd be like if he only made those kind of movies where it's like, okay.
And I'm not saying he can't do these types of movies. I'm just saying he might be talented enough that he doesn't have to be restricted by a type.
Yeah. Because it's always interesting when you get directors that will step out of their typical genre and do something different. I mean, despite the fact that he has a very up and down career, I mean, someone like Ridley Scott, I mean, he's made everything from, I mean, his first big feature film was a Napoleonic era duelist film. And then, but he's done some of the most renowned sci-fi the world's ever known.
Oh,
and
sure.
He's also done Thelma and Louise and Black Rain, which is a very 80s film. Like, he's G.I. Jane, I want to say. Like, he's made everything that you can think of. But at the same time, there's other directors, like one of my favorite directors is Michael Mann, who is, I mean, he's made some other kind of movies, but like, he's most well known for like crime films. I mean, he's made other stuff too, like I think he made Ferrari not too long ago. And he's very good at that. He's very stylish in that way. And the big theme with his movies are men who are obsessed with their work. And that can kind of translate through a lot of different genres. But
sure,
I don't know. It would be interesting. I would be very interested to see Ryan Coogler do more, like change up the kind of movies he makes. I mean, he's clearly very talented. Yeah, he's clearly got great skill. I mean, the first half of this movie is just, I cannot overstate enough how excellent it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, unless this just completely shits its pants, which I don't think it will, as long as it has any sort of legs, I think it'll do well enough. It won't hurt him.
Leverage him into another.
Yeah, he'll keep getting work.
And I think I don't think it's going to hurt him, even if it doesn't do well. Yeah. Because sometimes with these very narrow culture focus movies, there's a lot of like forgiveness when those movies don't perform. Because the expectation, it's like, oh, well, you know, it's because it didn't attract a white audience or something.
Yeah.
Not because it was bad, or
yeah, not because we put too much money into a film that wouldn't have a broader audience. Oops.
Yeah, I don't think this necessarily. It's rated R. That might be more of a scaring away element. I don't think there's any element of this that might scare away a more broader audience. I think it's just because it's like vampires, whatever. That might be the reaction.
Yeah. There might even be some people like me who, like, I was nervous going into this that it was going to be really heavy-handed, which
with the race stuff, yeah.
Yeah, which thankfully it wasn't, and in fact it was very tastefully.
Except for one scene.
Yep, except for the one scene, and which I think for most people is easily forgiven because it is at least a stylish and cool action scene, I guess. And because it's so disjointed from the rest of the story, that you're just like, okay. Yeah, I don't know. And granted, there's a huge conversation that I don't know if we'll have today, but like that is going on right now currently with Hollywood, and what is the future, and what are they going to do, and what's the business model going to be? Because I think the fear is among snobby types that like original film is going away, and IP is going to become so dominant. And with a movie that is as horrible as Minecraft being the big moneymaker so far this year, maybe that's not unduly, like, it's not undue fear. But
well, what's the concern specifically? Is it the love of the art of filmmaking, and that is going to go? Is that a concern? It's like the quality, or is it the financial aspect of the death of the theater, or?
Maybe both. I mean, certainly a quality thing is what I hear from the snobbies. And on top of that, I mean, yes, like
in film specifically, because we have been getting a lot of prestige television.
Yes, but then the question is, how much is that actually making? As we've talked about on our regular podcast, I mean, Apple right now is the one making probably some of the biggest prestige TV. Yeah, and it's just it's burning money. It's not making them any money. So if they decide to walk away,
they're in a deficit of like $1 billion a year.
Yeah, so it's like
for Apple TV. But it's like the cred they get off of their prestige television. And I don't think there's actually mixed feelings. The only negative person I've heard talk about Severance is Tim Pool, but he's got horrible opinions. But overall, the opinion of Severance seems to be that water cooler, like everybody's seen it. Everybody's engaging with it sort of thing. And Apple has been willing to make experimental, risky shows that some are expensive and not worth the money and aren't that great, but at least they tried and they did something interesting.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, we're just getting the same stuff over and over again. I think one of the biggest elements of why the market's changing so much is the technology.
Yeah.
It's just streaming has changed all of the paradigms.
And
the television, like it's killing cable, and it's destroying the theaters, especially when they're dying because of the shift to everybody moving to on demand.
Yeah, and on top of all these things outside of the industry's control happening, like COVID, like, well, the strike could arguably be beyond their control, but there's a lot of things that hit all at once, in addition to the natural change in the markets and the technology that was happening anyway. And I don't know. But not to get too far into it. I mean, I hope this movie does well enough. I think it's worth a watch for some people. This movie's hard to recommend. I mean, I remember I kind of got, when we were bringing it up briefly in our podcast, like it's a hard movie to recommend, but the first part of it's so good that you want to, but the last half is so strange it's hard to,
Right. I don't think I would recommend it, except for specific individuals that might be into something that's interesting like this. But for a general person, I don't think I would.
Yeah, I that's a good point. I think if you are a film lover, you should probably give it a shot. If you are history dorks, more like Rhett and I, think about it, because the first half is really interesting and good. If you just want a cool vampire action movie, I wouldn't.
No. If you're into vampires, this is not the movie for you.
No, it's a real brief 30, 45 minutes for you.
If you're into cross-cultural singing of The Rocky Road to Dublin, this might be your movie.
This may be the only movie.
You know what I thought I had there for a second? That when he shows up at the end of the movie, all dressed like an 80s dude with a sweater and stuff, it'd have been funnier if he shows up with like a shamrock necklace or something. Like it just did, like the Irish vampire that was in his head just infuses it with him, and he becomes very into Irish culture.
He has like a slight Irish accent.
Oh, how you doing that?
It's good to see you again, Sammy. I missed you for quite a while there. Oh, Smoke told me to stay away, he did.
Faith and Bigorna.
But yeah, I will say it's the first movie I've seen this year in the theaters that I can remember. Because I wanted to see Nosferatu. Yeah, I wanted to see Nosferatu, but didn't get a chance. So this is the first movie I've seen of 2025 in theaters, and it was at the very least interesting, despite the fact it didn't live up to its potential that it set up for itself in the beginning.
Yeah, it crapped the bed spinning on the toilet.
It kind of did. Any closing thoughts there, Rhett?
Oh goodness. I mean, I think we said mostly how we felt about the movie. I think you summed it up pretty nicely. If I were going to add anything, gosh, there's so much potential. I think if anything, I'm hurt by the fact that it fumbled it.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning I was like, oh, this is so good, and I was like, oh no, what's happening? like literally when the guy shows up with the electric guitar, we're engrossed in the movie. He shows up with electric guitar, we turn to each other and we're like, ugh. Just an about face on opinion of that film just suddenly goes downhill, and it's like, oh no.
I remember you looking over at me and just being like, what? Like, just like
what's happening?
Oh no.
And it falls apart. That's not to say there isn't a lot of redeeming aspects to this. It's a really interesting, if you want to see something interesting that experiments with some things that might do some interesting things with the film. It's like I said, it's hard to recommend. It's like if you hadn't seen the movie, I might go, oh, it's interesting. You might try it, as opposed to I wouldn't recommend this to my mother.
No. I wouldn't recommend it to like Silver. I wouldn't recommend it to my girlfriend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking of people who like movies at least to some degree. They're not like big buffs, but like this is not. It's hard to recommend in a way, and it's not because it's horrific or a piece of crap or too graphic or yada yada yada. It's just it's too much of a mixed bag. All the good is overshadowed by it not sticking the landing.
Yeah, you almost have to be willing to think about it a lot, and the average person isn't willing to think about, a lot of people just base their reactions to movies off of just how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
Actually. And I think part of the enjoyment me and you get out of films is we sit and talk about it. So even if it's a bad movie, we get fun out of it. Like, believe it or not, as horrible as Megalopolis was, I really got a lot of fun out of that movie. And it's not because it was good, it was because it's like, what utter garbage was that?
What is this crap?
And I almost got more fun out of that than just a badly filmed movie.
Yes.
It was just enjoyable to talk about. And this might be something where you see with a friend and then you just sit and chat about or have a conversation about. And that's sort of what makes it better in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's at the very least interesting and well made in the craft area of it, right? And I think
visually it looks really good.
It's incredible. And honestly, that's something certainly for this year so far, that's more than you can say for almost anything else so far this year of 2025. So
what? You're not expecting the Thunderbolts to be a big banger?
Despite the fact it was filmed where I'm from, I have my doubts. And I almost want to go see that movie just because of I want to see the cliffs that I'm from, like be in a movie. I also hate Marvel superhero movies for the most part.
Just so we could sit and complain about it on media.
Well, and I would just be lost. I'd be like, "Who's this? Why should I care?" Because there's literally those are characters from shows and movies I have not watched.
Well, and that almost works better because a lot of the flaw of a lot of Marvel nowadays is in order to get the most out of it is you've had to have seen like 30 movies. So if you haven't seen any of them, it should tell you whether or not the movie's any good because it leans too much on an expectation that you had seen a bunch of other things. Like the Daredevil series had a bunch of problems where it's like, oh, what, you didn't see the other 2 or 3 seasons of other things? It's like, no.
Yeah. Which, if they weren't so far in the past, if it wasn't 7 years previous, that wouldn't be as big of a deal. But it's 7 years previous. That's a problem.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyway, interesting film for the year to start out with. I hope we can bring you some more this year. I think this summer will certainly be an interesting one for Media Illiterate as a series.
It's a fun side project that we have fun doing.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some good options certainly coming in the summer, and I hope we can bring you some more of it.
And you know what? If you like us reviewing movies, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe and comment and all that. Because even if you disagree with our assessment, sometimes it's fun to hear other people's opinions on things. And our movie element, our movie review stuff might be something you like, and the general podcast might be something you're not into, and that's perfectly fine. Because I keep expecting, it's like if the Media Illiterate picks up enough to justify pushing it into a different channel, then it's like, oh, yeah, no, that would be fine. But it's like, it depends on interest and whatnot. And at the very least, we have fun doing these.
Oh, yeah, very much so. It's one of my favorite things we do, for sure.
Yeah. Good times.
Well, thank you so much for sticking around. We hope you stick around. There, like I said, there will be more coming this summer, and we will be being media illiterate some more this year. So please join us.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.